Imagine waking up one morning to find the ground beneath your house breathing fire. Streets cracking open, smoke rising from the earth, warning signs everywhere, yet the government tells you it's under control. But it's not. This is a story of a small American town that slowly and literally disappeared from the face of the earth. Centralia, Pennsylvania. A peaceful coal mining town, once home to more than 1,000 people, families, churches, schools. It sat quietly on top of some of the richest anthracite coal deposits in the world, a black treasure buried beneath rolling green hills. But on May 27, 1962, a single careless act changed everything. Every year, just before Memorial Day, Centralia's residents cleaned up their local landfill, a shallow pit behind the cemetery. That year, the town council decided to burn the trash to make cleanup easier. The fire department, as usual, set the garbage ablaze and waited for it to die down. They hosed the flames, checked the smoke, and left. But something they couldn't see was happening below. Unknown to anyone, that landfill was built over an old, abandoned coal mine shaft, one of the many tunnels that spiderwebbed beneath Centralia. And when the fire burned through the trash, it slipped through a hidden crack in the rock and found the coal. The flames that began as a cleanup fire ignited a vein of anthracite, an incredibly hard, slow-burning coal. And once it started burning, it never stopped. At first, no one noticed. Smoke drifted near the landfill. The smell of sulfur hung faintly in the air. But in a mining town, smoke was normal. Fires were common. The locals joked that Centralia is just a little warmer this summer. But by the fall of 1962, strange things began to happen. Miners reported heat in the tunnels deep below, so intense that metal equipment melted. The ground in the woods near the cemetery became hot enough to burn the soles of people's shoes. By winter, steam began to rise from cracks in the ground, carrying the sharp, choking scent of burning coal. Still, few people panicked. The state sent inspectors. They tried to seal off the fire with clay and concrete. But the fire had already spread through a maze of abandoned mines, tunnels that stretched for miles, connecting with old shafts long forgotten. Centralia had become a furnace beneath the earth. By 1979, nearly 2 decades later, the fire was still burning. Some said it would die on its own, others claimed it had already spread too far to stop. But the real danger wasn't the flames. It was what they couldn't see: carbon monoxide. In one home, John Coddington began noticing strange headaches and dizziness. When he called the authorities, they tested his basement and found lethal levels of gas. That same year, residents began complaining of dying vegetation, grass turning yellow, trees collapsing into soft ground. The government launched new studies. One expert famously said the fire could burn for another 250 years. Still, people stayed. This was their home. Their ancestors had built it. Church bells still rang every Sunday. Kids still played in the streets. But the ground was changing. It was February 14, 1981, Valentine's Day. 12-year-old Todd Domboski was playing in his grandmother's backyard when the ground suddenly gave way. A sinkhole opened beneath him, 150 feet deep, swallowing him into darkness. He managed to grab a tree root and scream for help. His cousin rushed over and pulled him out, seconds before the hole filled with steaming gas. When rescuers measured the temperature inside the hole, it was over 300 degrees Fahrenheit, 150 degrees Celsius. If Todd had fallen just a few feet deeper, he would have died instantly. That moment changed everything. The story hit national news. TV crews came, scientists came. The U.S. government realized this wasn't just a local problem anymore. Centralia was burning from below, collapsing from within, and poisoning the air above. In 1983, the U.S. Congress allocated $42 million to buy out and relocate residents. Most families accepted, taking the money and leaving behind their homes, bulldozed and erased by the state. But not everyone agreed. A handful of residents refused to leave. To them, Centralia wasn't just land, it was memory, community, and pride. One man said, "The government's taking our homes, not the fire." Years passed. The state tried again and again to evict them, citing safety risks. Lawsuits followed, protests were held, but the stubborn few stayed. They became known as the last of Centralia. By the 1990s, nearly all of Centralia's buildings were gone. Nature began reclaiming the land, grass growing over empty lots, deer wandering down Old Main Street. Smoke still curled up from the ground in places. The highway leading into town, Route 61, buckled and split from the heat, creating massive cracks. Locals began calling it the Graffiti Highway, a bizarre tourist attraction covered in spray paint and warnings. In 1992, the government took the final step, officially condemned the town, using eminent domain. The Postal Service revoked its zip code, 17927. Centralia, as an official town, ceased to exist. But the fire? It's still burning, 60 decades later. Today, only a few people still live there, mostly elderly holdouts granted lifetime residency by a court decision in 2013. There are no stores, no schools, no post office, just roads that lead to nowhere and vents of smoke that whisper from the ground. Experts estimate the underground fire could continue for another 100 to 250 years. It's moving slowly, inch by inch, consuming what's left of the coal veins deep below. And while the world forgets Centralia, geologists, scientists, and environmentalists still study it, a living reminder of how one tiny mistake can reshape an entire community forever.